Hey everybody, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes, but I see some people coming in the room here already. Doug, Nancy, Roger, welcome in early. And I think all of you have done webinars and/or webcasts before, but we're gonna take you through the ins and outs of this. So make sure you have your questions ready to go, and you can always ask questions or chime in before the webinar starts, since we have it cranked up early. But good to see you on, and thank you for coming in early. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes at the top of the hour. Please stand by. Roger from Winston. Roger, you doing a bunch of traveling these days? You usually are. But it seems like the last few webinars you've been channeling from Winston. Oh, Nashville. Nashville is a fun city. Jackson just went to Nashville. That was, I think, his first time, but Nashville is always a fun place. Monica, have you been to Nashville?
I have not actually.
Yeah. As Roger says, it's too much fun. It's like it's like its own Vegas. It's like what happens in Nashville stays in Nashville. So I've heard.
I heard they have a lot of really great restaurants. Good food.
Yes.
That's always a big seller for me.
Live music is a big seller for me.
Good food, live music here as well.
What's that?
Live music, great food, great pairings.
Yeah. And yeah, Roger said music and beer. Those of you just joining us, we just started a few minutes early. We're just waiting for everybody to come in. We'll get started here right at the top of the hour so we can start on time and get as much as possible. So what's funny about this, just so you know, is we actually pulled this from a class that Jackson did, and it follows our 9 steps. So you guys are going to get a couple extra steps, but we're just going to deep dive into the couple of key ones that you should know on how to make your webcast successful. So just about ready to go here. All right. Geez, it's Thursday already. Who knew? See a lot of people logging in. Monica, you ready?
I am.
Jackson, you ready?
Yep.
10-4. All right, welcome to a Social Jack Flash class, 5 key steps for a successful webcast. Drive audience, engagement, and leads, which was what everybody wants. So welcome everybody, and good to have you on with us today. My name is Dean Delisle. For those of you that don't know me, founder and CEO of Forward Progress, creator of Social Jack, and we've officially trained and coached well over 120,000. And we've done over, we figured out in the last few weeks, we hit our 3,000 mark on webcasts, or webinars. So we'll talk about the difference in those. We appreciate each and every one of you. We also have Jackson on, who handles all the production of webcasts, podcasts, anything digital and streaming. Say hey, Jackson.
Hey.
Also a student of Second City, so he's an improviser and does a stellar job at graphic design and also video. Roger says, hey, Jackson. And Monica is with us today. She's our influence department manager, and she makes sure that your brand and you are literally literally being an influencer in your industry and especially a rock star within your network, and your network continues to grow. And like Jackson, she's also a co-host on the Influence Factory. Hey, Monica.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. 16 countries, just a few short of Dr. Chris, who we had on yesterday's program, right?
Yes, still adding.
That's right. He's got a few years on you. All right. So this is going to be fun today. So we're going to go a little bit, show you behind the scenes on our process that we've refined over the last 20 years in terms of webinars and webcasts and all that good stuff. But we're going to move a little fast, as we always do, because we have a lot to cover. And like I said, this is based off of a class that Jackson wrote. And a couple that I've put together that literally has 9 steps in there, but we're not going to deep dive that much into them. But David, it's good and timely that you're on this, since we're coaching you on similar things to this, so you'll get a lot of good nuggets out of this. But to engage with us, and many of you already have started, just simply type into the questions area of the GoToWebinar taskbar. So what we want to know from you today is type in, what is your favorite thing about Halloween? What is your favorite thing about Halloween? Monica, what's your favorite thing about Halloween?
Dressing up.
Dressing up, right? And do you have your costume yet?
I do. I actually have two in mind. Still working out the details, but yes, Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, so I definitely go all out for it.
We've got Nancy chiming in about candy, Emily specifically eating chocolate, Roger drinking beer. And Roger, there's some pairing with beer and chocolate as well. So now remember, the more you engage with us, the better you have a chance to win today, because we give out gift cards at the end for engagement, because we said we want to drive engagement. There we go. Roger's also decorating the house. That's a good time. If you do have any type of technical difficulties, if you click and switch between computer audio and phone call or no audio, or if you click on phone call, you'll actually get a phone number and an access code, just like what's displayed on the screen. David likes bobbing for apples. I think that's fun, David, but I'll tell you what, I love the water. I love to swim, but there's that moment when I'm going, but maybe because I'm combining it with Roger's drinking, but when I go under for those apples, there's a little bit of a fear when that water starts coming up. So anyway, have you ever done that, Monica?
I have. It was when I was younger, 6, 7. I remember I had this like mask makeup thing going on, and my mom was just like, "Your face is a mess right now," because I tried grabbing apples, and yeah, it was a disaster.
Right. I know. Anyway, make the most of it. But David loves it. So if you need somebody on your team that's a pro, you got to get David involved. So that's how it works. All right. So don't forget, if you haven't grabbed a copy, a lot of the things that we teach you in our classes is in the book first. If you just put my name into Amazon, you can find that book. And if you want me to sign it, just email me and we'll figure out a place to meet, because I'm traveling a lot of places these days. So, and remember, our commitment here is to provide you and your organization with the best opportunity to be found, be known, and be first as an influencer in your network and your industry using the most relevant digital tools, social media, and human relationships available. So super cool. So remember, right, so that as we're helping you along the way, don't forget about Forward Progress, who helps sponsor these things. That's our company that's been around for over 15 years. And Monica and the entire team here love serving people, not just developing webcasts, but helping with any digital marketing mission. So that means if you want websites, or if you want social media, any type of content, press releases, rapid launch plans for your product or service, the team is always here to help. And Social Jack is an influencer marketing development platform. So that means if you want to develop your influence, go to socialjack.com. There's a ton of free classes on there. There's a membership you can subscribe to. And we have trained and coached over 120,000 professionals in many, many, many countries. Although, Monica, I know we've been in over 40 countries, but I was like, Chris physically has visited like 53 or 57 countries. I'm
Yeah,
like, we've just gone through the internet. So I'm like, wow, we're cheating, and he beat us. So now
his
I
goal is
was,
100. His goal is
I know. I said, now I'm going to go back and recount. There has to be more countries. So All right, so real quick, we're going to do a polling question. How many webcasts do you produce per year? So I'm just going to launch this quick poll. It's and we'll talk about polling questions here in a minute, but just click on on the blue screen there in front of you. We have 25% voted. We're going to leave this up for 15 seconds. Just quickly click on there. And there you go. Thank you, Roger, for acknowledging those classes are great. We really appreciate that. Okay, so we only have 30% of you. Let's see. We have 50% of you voted. So let's see where the rest of everybody's at. Are you guys multitasking on us? So we have 50% of you in. There you go, and here's the audience today. So you see how we can share those results. So we'll talk about engagement here in a minute, but you have the opportunity anonymously to get a polling from the audience. We have 25% have done none, 25% 1 to 5, and 50% more than 10, and Roger does over 100 a year who's on with us. So kudos to Roger on that. All right. So one thing that we work really hard on the influence side is to build reputation and visibility. Now, what comes with that is more brand, whether it's personal or business brand awareness, trusted relationships, which we're all about relationships in the network and building that community. But most of you are excited about referrals and new business. So as we're talking, think about what the outcome is for you in this. Now, Monica, your department does a ton of content, a lot of content, blogs, press releases, images, video, but what you really love is video, right?
Yes, it's dominating social media. It's about 80% of what our audience loves to look at.
Right. And what's interesting about that is that on the average post video, even if it's a bad video, can get a minimum of 10 times better engagement. That means people engaging with it than the rest of your content. So think about that, 10 times without advertising. And so, social media, there's sort of the free version, and then there's the version where you pay and promote. So we're not going to get into that on this webcast, but we also have ways to build digital influence through email and other vehicles. But today we're going to talk about how webcasts and webinars are much like going to an event. So this is an event. So you're on a webinar. We're talking about a webcast. That seems weird. And we're also, you may be going to an event this week. So we want you to realize that social media, any of the platforms, is no different than you walking into a big networking event or a chamber event or a conference. It just has more people, and you're working to make sure that you meet the very best people in the room or attract them to your webinar or webcast. Now, we blend that with influencer marketing. And what we want to emphasize here is we're going to talk a little bit about influencers in webcast and webinars, but the fact is the employee advocacy space is super hot. So what does that mean? That means that if you have employees within the company, so Roger, you have a lot of LOs out there, you may want to feature them or your clients as part of those webinars, and I'm sure you do that. So if you're thinking about doing this or you haven't done this before, this is very interesting to not just get people from the outside to merge those networks with you, but to look at people on the inside. Now, real quick, we do a lot of pre-marketing. Now, we've been doing webinars for quite some time, obviously with 3,000 on the board. Right now, we don't have the luxury or the time, or we really don't need a lot of times to give it very advanced notice on our webinars. So what do? Let's see, Monica, we do like a web blast like on a Monday before our flash classes, right?
Correct. Yeah, we like to usually get those out around noon. We
Right.
seem to get the most traffic around that time, 12 to 2-ish.
Right. And then you guys will also do social media posts, and you'll do a little bit of, sometimes you'll do promoted posts depending on the webcasts, right?
Correct. And then, of course, adding to our story.
Right. Absolutely. So So one of the things that's interesting is you deciding if you're new to this, 25% of you have not done this, 25% of you are 1 to 5. Depending on the amount of email frequency or communication that you're doing, we run at least one a week, sometimes two a week with our other programs. So for us, we find that people stay tuned, they know where to go. If you want to go to other classes like this that are what we call flash classes, if you go to socialjackflash.com, you can see upcoming classes that you can register for. And we constantly, every week, every other week, are posting new classes up there like this. So think about for yourself, how many are you going to do? What's the frequency? What's your other communication? And then that's some of your pre-marketing considerations. Now, Jackson, on the platform side of this, we have webcast versus webinar. And we've done a lot of conversation about this. And if you Google it, it's almost like we don't have a differentiator in some cases. But in our definition, you're on a webinar right now and there's content on your screen. Now, right now, just really for a short, brief period, we're going to turn on our cameras. So we'll just turn on our cameras right now, and you'll see us pop up on the side of your screen or the top, depending on how you have configured. So let us know when you can see us. So we're waving. So there you go. So you can see Jackson's got a green screen behind him, which if you're using Zoom or other platforms, you can use Zoom. You know, with Zoom, you can actually have Jackson. You can load anything you want if you have a green screen, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You really just need something like, Zoom or Adobe. I believe you're able to. Adobe is one of the higher end ones. And then webcasts that go out via social. You use things like a TriCaster, things like that for multiple camera ones, which is on the higher end of things, even higher than Zoom or Adobe. And those sorts of things will allow you to have green screen. But Zoom is probably the most affordable one right now that you see, and you can even do it with an iPhone, which makes it really cool. So like if you're on an iPhone or an iPad, you don't even need a green screen to do it. It'll block out everything that isn't you. Now it does look a little bit wonky, which is the technical term. Yeah, so that will sometimes look a little like you'll have glowing around the fingers if you wave, things like that when you don't have a green screen, because it's virtually putting in a background in place of a green screen, but it's blending all bunch of colors together instead of just the one green.
Yep.
So
awesome definition. And Monica and I are in our offices and studios here in Chicago, and you see I've got behind me whatever I want people to see, or I'll have it looking this way, and then Monica has the Social Jack emblem behind her. And then one of the interesting things is that Monica's got earbuds in, I've got an earbud in, and if I were to be on a webcast, you'll notice that a lot of times I hide this or I tuck it into my shirt just as if we're shooting a video. We also have, Jackson has headphones on, which are great for webinars because you can travel with them. They plug into USB, and usually you can have some good noise canceling, and we'll use these wind blockers. I call them, is there another term for that? I call them a wind blocker.
pop filters.
Pop filter. I knew there was a technical.
Yeah. But yeah, and you can get like a 12 pack of the smaller ones for the headsets and lav mics. They're interchangeable, but you can get like a 12 pack of them for like $6. They're super affordable. And then if you look at this on my mic, I'm not going to touch it because it's live right now, but here is you have something like this, and this reduces the pop from what I'm when I'm talking and stuff. So that's another thing. They also have screens that clip on at the top of the microphone and then go in front of. So some people double up and do both for a very, level sound that, has very little pop, like the when you're talking. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend, and these are very, affordable and easy to do. And the microphones, USB microphones are on the cheaper side, and then I have all my stuff running in through XLR. It's a little higher end side of things, but then you're looking like $50 a mic, then you need cables and a mixing board. But
Yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome. Okay, so we can cut the cameras for now so we can get the content up on the screen a little more. But thank you guys for tuning in on that. So we make a determination to actually have, is it going to be a webinar, and we want people to actually see, that content more, or is it more about the personality? So those of you that turn into our webcast podcast is Influence Factory on Wednesdays at noon Central. It's all about the guests. So we are putting that on there. It's about having us engage with you as the audience and less content on the screen. However, when we do flash classes or educational, we want that education up there. Now, when you're selecting platforms in Jackson, we reevaluate platforms all the time, probably too much sometimes.
Probably
But we
once a
look,
quarter. Yeah.
yeah, and it's an exercise because there's all kinds of new things coming on the marketplace. So we have functions that we look at, features that we look at. We can't get into all these, but you gotta have to look at also your budget. So like Jackson, what do we pay for our licenses Zoom? Is it like 500 a month, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, somewhere around there. It's yeah, but it's on the way more affordable side than something as opposed to Zoom, or as opposed to Adobe, or
Right.
uh
Which
yeah, Brightcove.
Yeah, because if you want to go to Bright Cove or Adobe, you're at like almost 20 grand a year, depending on the size of your audience. Now we have a license right now where we have 500 and under on Zoom, 500 and under on GoToWebinar, which is what you're on right now. So, and we pay about the same amount per those two platforms. Although Zoom really caters better in our mind to casting, which is the video conference side of this, and GoToWebinar is really better at reporting and producing reports. Do you still agree with that, Jackson, on the lead reporting and things are much
Yeah,
easier? And
100%. I agree completely. The GoToWebinar is just they've been around longer. They're the, big kid on the block pretty much, and they are when it comes to data, they're one of the best and in the most affordable range at getting and compiling all the data into a nice looking spreadsheet that you barely have to touch when compiling all the data. So it's real nice to just be able to export and go. Whereas Zoom, you might need to clean it up a little bit. It looks pretty bland, just a normal spreadsheet with some data in there that you probably gonna have to reorganize. But
yeah, that was the thing we learned the hard way, because we use this to generate leads and things like that. We want the reports and people to get to things. So that means the polling data, the information that you gather, the comments that you type in, if we can have those in one report, it makes it easy. We're in Zoom, you have to patch like 3 or 4 reports together to get that information out, which slows down the sales process. On a marketing side, we showed features like polling. Um, so if I put this polling question up, what do you use for your webcast platform? And I have GoToWebinar, Zoom, Adobe Connect, WebEx, or other. There's so many out there, we can't even list them all. So it looks like WebEx. Oh, we have some WebEx people out there. I started with WebEx, man, like 20 years ago. That's how long this stuff's been around. GoToWebinar and Zoom seem to be the most popular here. So, and in case you want to see that. And so these are marketing features where what we're doing is promoting engagement. So I can see that some of you, like Emily and Laura, don't necessarily have us on the top of your screen, or you're using a dual monitor. So we can get signals from a marketing component and say, oh, this audience is not engaging with us as much. But I can see that Morgan's attentive, that Nancy's attentive, that Roger's attentive, that Donna's attentive. So we can actually get signals from the system and determine that. So we get these dashboards we can look at. And for us in marketing, we want to make sure we do a lot of hard work behind these webinars and webcasts. We want to make sure you're satisfied, that you're engaged with us. So that's sort of a way for us to get feedback and communication and things like that. So on the marketing side, that's what we want to know. So hopefully everybody understands that. And then you can have customized registration pages. You notice we use landing pages, we use lead pages on the front end, but it actually integrates, right? Integrates with GoToWebinar. So the data automatically transfers to our email marketing system and GoToWebinar at the same time, and it saves time. And the big game here is to get data. So then Monica and her team can take that data and go to social media, engage with those people. We know who's in the audience, and it gives you so much better results. Now I'm going to jump into step 2 here, campaign development. So as we look at, what this looks like for why are we doing this, right? So first and foremost, we look at goals. So Monica and I will probably brainstorm and we'll say, well, why are we actually doing this event? Well, we want to get leads. We want to find out who's interested, who's ready to buy, who's thinking about buying, and fill our pipeline a little bit. And sometimes we just want to build our list, our subscriber list. Well, in campaign development, you have to think about what is the outcome? What's the offer going to be? So we'll give you some sample offers and some real offers at the end of this so you can see what that looks like. But we also want to determine who the target is. Now, we have a lot of you are here because you saw us on social media or you saw us on in an email blast, and we have 80,000 people in our email master list, but we only send out to about 30,000 less than 30,000 selectively the people that either like webinars or have been to webinars. So, so we really select out depending on the segment or that target. And so Monica, you and the team, you and Emily and the team sort of spruce these things up, make them look good, and then make sure that they go out. And then sometimes you'll have me develop a video. So do you want to speak to any more about that or how you guys do that a little bit?
So as I like to say, we bedazzle.
Right.
It really just depends on the client. For me personally, I love infographics. I like to really use those. I think it's eye-catching, and it really allows the audience to just not, get that boring type of email or campaign that you typically receive and kind of implement within an infographic. I think it's visually appealing and highly recommended.
Yeah, and then you also have me shoot a relevant video. So a lot of times you'll see a video of one of us popping up where we actually talk about what that event is happening as part of the campaign. And again, it depends how much time you have. Because we run so many of them, but we have a lot of loyal subscribers, like many of you on with us, we actually literally promote these like once a month, and then we'll promote them like 3 days or 4 days before. But we've built up to that. Those of you that don't run that frequency might need a 2-week lead time, and you might need to build up. You might need to do advertising and just think about some of those things. But as you're developing the campaign, a lot of it is really based on budget and things like that. So as we drive into that, the one thing I want to encourage you to think about is I have 2 of my influencers on here. I have Monica and I have Jackson. So Jackson is a subject matter expert on webcasts. He does so many of them. He probably doesn't realize everything he knows. And Monica does so much in marketing with her team that she probably doesn't realize everything she knows. But I can tap into their expertise and influence, help them build their brand, help us build our brand, and also build credibility in the marketplace. So I just want to make sure everybody understands what I just said. So this is the reason to use external and or internal influencers. On our podcast, we use outside influencers and inside influencers. And I think, Roger, you mentioned that on yours, you said you use your sales reps for now for GoToWebinar and GoToMeeting. So, that it looks different for everybody, but I just want to open your minds up to the possibilities here. So, and it does work because you're taking and mashing up those networks. I'm not going to get into registration other than there's a lot of options for registration. So again, I mentioned landing pages. A lot of the platforms, what you see here is a GoToWebinar landing page, not the best, but for a lot of you, it can work. We can get into the sort of what goes behind a little bit, and I'm just being sensitive on time here because I want to get to some of the other closing techniques as well. But Jackson, I would say it's fair that when we're developing building the slides, making sure the story flows and is good. You know, we tend to put too much in, but we're always thinking about what are we, you know, what can we give these folks? Because David's needs are probably different than Donna's needs, are different than Doug's needs, are different from Emily's needs. So as we do this, we're trying to figure out based on who registers, what is important to them. Now we have the luxury that we can swap out a lot of things. And Jackson, you can go ahead and say that drives me crazy.
That drives me crazy, just a little. Just to an understandable extent.
Yes, well, you know, and this deck here was assembled partially, you know, over the course of 3 months, 4 months, whenever you wrote the class, Jackson. But also I was up at, 5:30 this morning looking and picking things out, putting a couple new things in and making sure that it was as relevant as possible to the audience that we had. So you have to determine based on that target when you're building the slides or you're inserting videos, what does that look like and how does that handled? Polling questions, again, to get audience engagement. Handouts are an option. We don't have any in here, but if we did, there's a handouts button that really distributes nicely. And Jackson, Zoom doesn't have handouts, right?
Zoom does not have handouts, no.
Right, that's what I thought. That was another thing that we caught. And then think about the closing sequence. Where are you going to take people at the end? And then you always have an option, especially GoToWebinar does another nice job of this, is as soon as you end, you can have a survey pop up. So it depends on what makes the most sense. Marketing, again, is based on budget. And then if you don't do yeah, handouts, right? I know everybody loves handouts. That's what Roger chimed in and said. So you can have pay-per-click, which means you're paying per everybody that clicks to register, social media, emails. Those are probably the best, but also WOM. So Monica, what's WOM?
What's in it for me?
What's WOM? You have social media, pay-per-click. Yes, word of mouth. So what you're doing is every time you're at an event, every time you're in a meeting, anytime you're talking to somebody saying, oh, we have a webinar. So yesterday I was on a sales call and I said that we did an interview with somebody. It's a big membership organization. I said, we did an interview with somebody about membership organizations because this particular group has a little bit of a fixed mindset. And yesterday on the show, we talked about having a growth mindset and really going to the next level on behalf of the members. So Jackson, I just want to remind, I need that webinar whenever you get it up. I know it's by tomorrow, but I'm going to send it to the entire board that's making a decision about using us and showing them the interview with Dr. Chris on how he validates the position that change is good. And so you can see where I'm taking the content that we're developing and then using it as part of the sales process. Does everybody get that? Give me a yes if you get that. So type that in, please. So make sure you're with me on this because you want to take this content that you use and make sure it winds up somewhere. Okay, so the marketing isn't just before, but it's also word of mouth when you're having conversations. So this is a super, super interesting thing. And those of you that take our social selling course, we actually teach you how to take this content and repurpose it over and over and over and over again. And Monica, that's important because people forget, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so repeat content is pretty magical in that you can take content that you distributed a month ago and redistribute it. And to many people, it feels new.
Repurpose content, yes.
Right. So in registration, we always look at the audience. This is a critical step. We determine who's registered. We determine information about you. Make sure you look at the audience and you check your autoresponders to make sure they are clean and clear. Then we get into delivery. Now, before we delivered today, we sent out some messages between the team. I sent out some notes. I walked down by Monica and she's like, what parts would you like me to chime in on? And we didn't necessarily do a dry run because we do a lot of these, but I wanted to make sure that I'm not necessarily putting Monica on the spot and asking her about things that she doesn't know. So, if I asked you the question, how do we configure cameras on the back end, that wouldn't be a fair question, right, Monica?
Not at all. I have no idea.
But if
That's
I
all
ask,
Jackson.
but if I ask Jackson, how do we set up the control panel? How do we do these things? Then he knows that he's oriented to the technical aspects of setting things up. Monica and the team. One of the other things I want to talk about too is that we have people that during every webinar, and I see Emily's on here and Brett, we have people that during the webinar are live tweeting. So they're taking the experience of the webinar that's going on right now. And if you were to go on Social Jack's Twitter page, you would probably see some live tweets based on the content that we're delivering. So what that does is it externalizes live the experience that is happening right now in this webinar, letting people know that we have webinars, letting people know to go back to Social Jack and to go to Social Jack Flash classes to listen to the recording or get to the next one. So you get all this good information live when you're not here. So that's the audience, the sort of the behind the scenes audience that we also want to bring to your attention that you can have. So we showed you about the control panel a little bit where you can actually see what the audience, if they're attentive. So let's check to see where our audience is today. Ooh, 78% attentive. So that's awesome. So you guys are doing great, or we're doing great. I don't know, Monica, you think we're doing great?
You're doing fabulous.
Okay, good. We have about 8 minutes to go, so hang in there. Okay, and then decide if you're going to record and what are you going to do with that recording. Then we get into conversion. Okay, so you want to pace yourself. You want to make sure the audience understands what the offer is. Does it match the audience that you have? You can hint to the offer usually every 6 minutes. So as you're going through, and this is taken from the infomercial people, as you're going through, every 6 minutes, you're really talking about things that you're going to do with them or things that you're going to offer and make it feel education based. You have been around us for a while, a lot of you, and we really want to make sure you're successful, but at the end of the day, we're in business. So if I were to ask you, let me just put this up here. What do you need help with? So if I put this up, this is a polling question for us to understand, is there the potential for us to have a relationship? So as you're talking to the audience, as you're converting, there's a big blue screen up. You can put that up and ask the audience. And I like how a lot of you just check all the boxes, right? I want it all. So then what happens is a lot of times you'll get a call from Nancy or Monica or Morgan on behalf of myself, and we'll check in with you and say, do you want to know more about producing a webcast? Do you want to know more about monthly social media posting? Do you want to know more about content creation? So in doing that, we can actually tell who wants what. So now when we have a conversation, it's a very pre-informed conversation about what makes sense to you. So these are, sort of examples of closing examples on here. So if I close this out, I can then share with you and you can see the audience of people that participated. They want help in producing a webcast, marketing and conversion for a webcast, content creation, influencer marketing development, and monthly social media posting. So you can either decide to share that or you can use that internally so that when you do get those reports, you know exactly what to do. And that brings us to follow-up. So making sure that within 24 hours, and it depends on timing, but anywhere between 4 and 24 hours, we try to email you right away. Jackson, what do we normally set at? Like 6 hours from now, the autoresponders go out?
Yeah, we usually set it at 6 hours, which gives us enough time to trim anything out of the recording and then upload it to a separate site, usually our resource center, and then we send a link to that.
Right. And Jackson likes that I set this right away. So if I were doing this and I didn't have Jackson as a resource, so that I didn't have to do as much trimming or editing on the video that's produced, I would be conscious on my checklist that I start recording. So when I was doing these on my own, I basically had a checklist that said unmute, share your screen, start recording. So I would have that checklist in front of me, so I knew exactly what I needed to be conscious of because I didn't have anybody helping me at the time. So those of you that are just starting out, you have that option to sort of have that as well. So just be conscious, that you're recording because your work is important and you want to have a recording. Even if you're not sure what to do with it, please record, because if you decide to engage with us and get with us, we'll go, hey, do you have any video? So I think, David, we asked you that question yesterday. How many webinars do you do, and do you have any video? So those are our first questions when we're taking inventory with new accounts. So awesome stuff out there. And then follow up with your attendees, and if you can, call them. You noticed on this one, we took phone numbers. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We're always testing too. So, some people don't like to give their phone numbers. Some people give fake phone numbers. But if you're planning on marketing to them, emailing to them, and completing the close or conversion cycle, a phone number helps if you're going to make a personal call. I'm curious, out of everybody that's on here, are you okay with getting a personalized phone call rather than just an email after something that you find important? So I just sort of curious, take a little poll. I don't have a polling question, but just type in yes if you're okay with getting a phone call, after. So Donna says email is better. Roger says he always appreciates a phone call. Loves to talk to people. See, Doug says email is best. Now, the only thing I worry about is, let's say that this is really something that's important to you. The minute you hang up with us, life shows up, business shows up, we get busy, and then all of a sudden the email gets buried. So we like to do a sequence where we're doing an email, a call, and an email. So think about that. Okay, so in terms of doing that, it really helps out. We also blog. So you'll notice if you go to my LinkedIn page or our blog page, we blog about these classes as well and embed the videos. Document your success. Make sure that you know, where did you make a mistake? Where can you make some improvements, and celebrate that, and then determine those next steps. So again, we covered more than 5 steps in here, but what's your number one takeaway? I want everyone to type in your number one takeaway, and then we'll draw a winner here. So what's the number one takeaway? Frequency is important. Good. What else? Come on, everybody have a takeaway. This helps you win in the next couple of minutes. I learned that we provide the service. See that? The checklist, right? Webcasts are different from webinars. Yeah, that's good, Emily, for sure. A variety of content. Now, just so you know, as Donna mentioned, I didn't know you did this. So we do a lot of this, and we actually do this in New York next week. We'll be at a show, and we will be webcasting live from that show, and we will do some Facebook Live. We'll do some do some interviews on Influence Factory, and heck, we might even spontaneously do some IGTV. So how about that, Monica? So we might spontaneously do things like that. So pay attention to our activity next week and see how we use and leverage that event to really take and externalize that event. And we can talk about offline how you get sponsors, how you can play with your sponsors, how you can increase ticket prices, how you can expand your audience. And so you'll be able to get a peek into the Social Media Strategy Summit next week. And we will interview people from all kinds of big brands and agencies where you can get expert advice from them on the spot. So real quick, we have Convert. Convert, if you want to really get to be a true influencer, go to socialjack.com. You can start for free as a member. You can also click on member login and see some sample things that you can get, but there's thousands of videos, thousands of classes, content, downloads, anything you need. If you are interested in the Business Influencer Program, when we do contact you, just say, hey, I want you to tell me about that 90-day program. Or we have options for you to get coached. So we can either do it for you or coach you. So very good stuff here, okay? Now, those of you who want more sales, who wants more sales? Anybody here want more sales? We have a Sales Accelerator Fast Track class. If you go to socialjacksales.com and you type in today where it says promo code, when you go to click on the ticket, hold on, I'll show you just so we're clear of how to do this. If you go to register now, enter promo code is right there. If you type in today and you apply the code, Friday, right? Ends in 1 day, early bird ends in 1 day. You get a $300 class for $97. So you just type that in and you are ready to rock and roll. Okay? So you get that access and you can, and if you want to ask me a question, just ask me a question. It's that easy. Just fill that out. Okay, so there you go. So now your assignment. So here's actually, I want to go to this other assignment sheet here. So if you are thinking about doing this, first of all, pull a team together. It doesn't have to be us, although we have some expertise in this, but be realistic with your budget, pull a team together, determine the frequency, understand what you want to get out of it, and measure the results all the way. Okay, identify what is the outcome, who's your target, what's the offer. So if you do nothing else today, take a screenshot of this. And if you're thinking about doing a webcast, because I think 33% of you have not, make sure that you absolutely do that. So Jackson, can we get a couple winners for today?
Yes, we can. So we have David Brooks and Roger Isley.
Oh, the most engaged. Look at that. See, engagement pays off. Ladies, the guys got it this time. The guys got it this time. So, but we want each and every one of you to literally, usually the ladies always win. We want you to actually take and share what you learned today with a colleague, with a friend, with somebody else that might be thinking about this, because you are that much farther ahead than everybody else on these steps. And hopefully you gained great knowledge out of this, and we'll get you the recording. And if you want to pass that on to others, you have that capability because it's free content. So hopefully you learned great things today and you took tremendous value away from this. And we really appreciate you, because we wouldn't be doing these if it wasn't for you saying, hey, could you show us how to do a webinar, how to do a webcast? So did everybody learn at least one new thing? Give me a yes or a no. Roger, you do 100 a year. Did you learn something out of this? Okay, good. I'm always like worried. I got Roger in here who's like, does 100 a year. And I'm like, did he get something out of this? I really work hard to make sure everybody gets something. He goes, yes, always. So thank you so much. All right. Well, listen, we appreciate all of you. And yes, David Brooks is going to increase his webinars immediately. That's exciting. All right, everybody, listen, have a great rest of your week. And we will see you online, and watch for the autoresponder that tells you how to get and share this recording. And then if you clicked on something, we'll make sure that we follow up with you. And we hope to do business with you someday at some point here. So thank you again for your participation. And Monica, you can say bye.
Bye.
Jackson, you can say bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.